Rachel Zegler's Snow White film has had a lot of question marks surrounding it. We didn't know if it was actually going to release in March of 2024. We didn't know what the final product was going to be like, or if she would even do PR for the movie. But now Disney has released a ton of information, like a first look at the film, but they have also delayed it by an entire year. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. I'm sorry, my voice is a little rough, but we have to get through it. This is a Bounding Into Comics article. It says, though, the Walt Disney Company released a first look at Rachel Zegler's upcoming Snow White film, while also revealing that the movie will be delayed by an entire year. Now, this is actually an image that has been floating around the internet for about a day before they actually fully announced that it was an official image. So a lot of people thought that it was fake. I had only seen it once, and it was a post saying, is this actually real or not? And honestly, to me, it kind of looked like AI, but now they're confirming it's real. So I think that they were stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I think that they actually had to release this image and say, oh yeah, first official look, even though we weren't exactly sure it was real. And because it was already online, they were like, yeah, it's real. But not only that, they delayed this movie by an entire year, which is just so hilarious. Now, obviously, the actor strikes are still going on, so it did raise a lot of questions of if they have to reshoot. Is Rachel Zegler going to have enough time? Is she going to be able to do PR? But we are actually now hearing that the actor strikes are going to be over in the next week or so because they are coming to a deal. They are making a deal. So the actor strikes are going to be over. So they could have technically just filmed with her over the next couple of weeks and probably had this movie ready, but deciding to delay it by a full year is a very, very bold move because, like I've talked about many times in videos, they were discussing delaying it, hoping that the backlash would die down, right? That they would delay it by a couple of months and a lot of people would forget. Obviously, news cycles on the internet are very quick. Something is here one day and it's gone the next, and a lot of people do forget just because there's so much to talk about every single day. But when it comes to Rachel Zegler and Snow White, I just didn't see that happening. She has said so many controversial things that people would just not forget. Her whole entire career now is going to be marred with these controversies. She could do a movie in 10 years and we're going to be looking back going, remember what she said about Snow White? And how she basically said, screw what the fans want. We need to do what we think will bring the modern audience in. Ugh, the prince was a stalker and this isn't a love story. Like, those are not just things that are going to be forgotten, especially when it comes to the movie that she said them about. So delaying it is a bold move, especially by a year, because it gives her so much more time to say more controversial things. But also, the internet isn't just going to forget. It doesn't matter if you release it March 2024 or March 2025, people are going to bring up the interviews she did. And in my opinion, they should have just powered through and released it in March of 2024 just to get it done and over with. And we've even heard rumors that they want to do more of these live action, remakes slash reboots, and it doesn't really matter if she's part of them or not. It just kind of strings along this bad reputation that these live action adaptations have. And this is just not a smart move, in my opinion. Maybe a desperate one, though, because they're desperate for people to forget, but the internet never forgets. But we finally have a first look at this movie, and boy, does it not look good. Again, it really does kind of look like AI. But basically what they did, was they removed the dwarf actors because Peter Dinklage, an actor who was not affiliated with this project at all, said that it was offensive. He was sick of, dwarf actors being stereotyped. And yeah, overall, this was just offensive. They shouldn't have the dwarfs. And then Disney said, you know what? It is insensitive and we are not going to. We're going to replace them with the 7 magical creatures slash companions. And then we saw the homeless bandits image where every single replacement looked like a homeless Seattle bandit. They just looked absolutely atrocious. This movie got wrecked for it, but now we're seeing that they actually decided to go in the dwarf direction. They're just like CGI'd, dramatized dwarfs, which is just even worse in my opinion, because these like dwarf creatures don't look half bad, but they should have picked dwarf actors in the first place in order to portray these characters, and then they could have like CGI'd them to look a little bit dramatized. This really looks akin to like characters in the Alice in Wonderland live action movies, in my opinion. And her dress just looks so weird. It just looks so costumey and cheap. Again, maybe once we see it with all of the extra CGI and it's sparkling and it's actually in the light, it'll look better. But I don't think that those cuffs can get any better. I don't think that like neckline can get any better. It still does capture the essence of Snow White's dress, but it just looks so party city like. And this image overall, in my opinion, is a bit cursed. I think that if this is the best image that they had to offer, this movie is in some serious trouble. But I mean, just judging by some of the decisions they've made over the past few days, it definitely seems like this movie is in trouble. There is no way that there's an easy fix to save this movie, right? They're obviously not recasting Rachel Zegler, and even if they did that, they would have to completely restart this movie. It has been surrounded in so many controversies, and it's just at every single turn, Disney is making the wrong move. They're bending the knee to actors who aren't even affiliated with the project. They're listening to people like Rachel Zegler for advice and letting her make decisions like, oh, we actually decided that we weren't going to have as much of, a princess presence in this film. Apparently she was being hard on set and she didn't want it to be a romance, so they cut a bunch of the romance scenes. Like, that is just absurd. She is killing this movie. She's just one of the many pieces, though, that is making this film a disaster. And now hearing that it's delayed until 2025, I can't really say I'm surprised. They really only had one of two options, but it does sound like the Disney executives did have their crisis meetings. They decided ultimately to delay it by a year, and I do think that that is a very bad decision on their part, and they should have just pushed out this movie, because the internet never forgets, and we are going to be able to talk about this for a whole extra year on top of the time we've already talked about it. And hey, it just gives Rachel Zegler more time to ruin the image and the reputation of this film. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.